Hi guys, thanks for coming to my talk today. Hopefully you're all excited to learn a little bit about 8-way. This is our Deton8 take on it. So have you ever tried to coordinate 8 people doing anything at the same time? Now try doing it at 120 miles an hour. 8-way skydiving is a thrilling, challenging, sometimes quite chaotic, but when it works, it really is magic. So a little intro about me. My name is Lucy Mancey. I am a member of Deton8 and some of my team members in the audience as well. So we've been together about 3 years now. We've laughed a lot. we've made a lot of interesting mistakes along the way. And we've even won a few medals. So today I'm going to give you a beginner-friendly introduction to 8-way. How our team has embraced all the challenges and just the joys and the fun we've had with this incredible sport. So the aim of this talk is, I want you to come away knowing a little bit more about 8-way, how it works, who can participate, and most importantly, why you should give it a go. So what is 8-way formation skydiving? In competition terms, it's 8 skydivers completing as many formations as possible in 50 seconds. I think it's still 50 seconds. Kate might correct me if I'm wrong in competition. Yeah. Each successful formation scores a point, and after 8 to 10 rounds, the team with the most points wins. Simple, right? So formations are divided into a pool of 2 types. You've got randoms, which are your static formations or shapes, labelled with letters A to R, and generally they're worth 1 point. You'll have block moves, which are your dynamic formations. So dynamic means there's a block with a moving part, as you'll see on the video there, and these are numbered 1 to 22, generally worth 2 points, but you have to get the start and the finish to get both those points. Or you get 1 point for the build, there's a movement bit, and then there's the end of the point. The end of the block scores you a point, but only if you don't fall apart in between trying to do that. So competitions are broken down into 3 categories. We've got rookie, which is perfect for beginners. It's only the static formations, the random dive pool that you need to learn to participate in this. Intermediate, which is a mix of the static formations and some of the dynamic moves. And then the senior dive pool, which is all of the randoms and all of the blocks. So much like 4-way in the sense that you've got all the different categories and all the levels of complexity. So who does what on an 8-way team? So each flyer on a team has a specific role. This helps keeps the formation structured, smooth and efficient. And knowing your job in your team is really important to helping with that. When putting a team together, it really helps to know what your flying strengths and things might be. Obviously, if you're not used to being on the outside of an aircraft and suddenly you're flying point, which is the first person, number 1, you're going to be further up than the plane than you've ever been trying to exit with 8 people hanging off of you. So when you are thinking about putting an 8-way team together, if you've done a bit of 4-way or you've maybe done some big way, think about where you're comfortable and where your strengths will be. It will really help you when you're putting your team together. So in terms of the actual slots, oh, hello, oh, we're back, no. So we have point, much the same as 4-way. You have a front float or an outside front. The reason some of these have 2 names is depending on who you're coached by or where you train, coaches will refer to them in different ways. I think we call it outside front on our team, but some people will refer to it, and you might see it on websites or on some of the training stuff that's out there, and I'll mention that in a bit, referred to as front float. You've got outside center, again, much like on your 4-way team. You've got a rear float, or an outside rear, and you've got a tail. And these are the 4 skydivers that will be outside the aircraft when you exit. Inside, you've got an inside front, or a front diver. You've got an inside center, again, similar to your 4-way flying. And you've got a rear diver, or an inside rear, which is my position. So how do you get out of a plane? In 8-way, a good exit, much like any formation skydive, really does set up the rest of the skydive. Everyone needs to leave together in a structured way to avoid the chaos. So in 8-way, there is more than one exit, but predominantly, and we've only ever trained one exit, is this 8-way chunk exit. So the floaters, the people outside the plane, are holding onto the aircraft and each other for stability. And the divers are going to be inside the plane, pushing out in sync and trying to stay connected. So key points for a strong exit, much the same in any other type of formation skydiving you're doing, is staying tight, presenting to the wind, trying to keep the exit level and controlled as you're coming out, and secure grips, helping to prevent any unnecessary movement and waffling throughout the formation. A clean exit really does make everything easier. Get this right and the rest of the skydive will flow smoothly. Now, I'm not going to lie, as beginner skydivers, it probably took us 30, 40 jumps for us to nail this exit. There's a lot of moving parts. And it is difficult, but it is also so fun and so rewarding when you do start to finally see the training and everything pay off. I do have a little video of us finally getting an exit over Netheravon. So who can do 8-way? So first of all, you're going to need your FS1 at the absolute bare minimum, but you're also going to need an advanced instructor's approval to jump in groups of more than 3 people where an FS coach is not present. Some drop zones will refer to that as FS1 plus. For some drop zones, it is just CI approval. So show of hands, who in the room here has their FS1? Excellent. Who in the room here has actually done 8-way? So I'm talking to quite a lot of the converted here. Who here wants to have a go at 8-way? Excellent. And so I'm assuming the rest of you who haven't tried 8-way, you're 4-way flyers? Yeah? Yeah. So you're also going to need 7 other skydivers who meet the above criteria. It also helps if you like each other, but not too much. A plane big enough to exit out of, and a DZ willing to let you try. Who here jumps out of a caravan? How many jumpers are you allowed behind the line, the red line in a caravan? 7. How many on an 8-way team plus camera? 9. So it's, communication is really key with the drop zone and the pilots so they can work out the weight and balance. When we're doing 8-way, we tend to be exiting first, and the rest of the skydivers are nicely referred to as our ballast. And it's important they need to know they're staying up by the pilot to help balance the aircraft out. And ideally, you need someone who knows what they're doing. In ideal circumstances, a good coach. But if there's anyone else on the drop zone who's done a bit of 8-way and can give you a few pointers, it really does help because it's massively confusing when you start out. Oh no, I've gone too far. Oh, I ruined that slide. So I was oh, can I go back? Come on, we'll go back a little bit. So we started as a classic scratch team. Originally, we were called Microcliming, which we thought was hilarious because the current champs were Microclimate, and then there was another team who changed their name to Macroclimb Out, and it was just chaos with the announcers trying to figure out which team was what and who was saying anything. So we literally did a couple of training dives. We went to nationals just fully expecting to have a laugh. We came away with a gold medal. So at that point, we realized maybe we might give this a go. So Deton8 was born, because it's really important on 8-way. It's also one of the unwritten rules that your name must have an 8 in it. It's not mandatory, but it does help. We were predominantly named for our explosive exits, hence the logo as well. So who are we? So over the years, we've had a few changes to the lineup as people have come and go. But the ethos has stayed the same. We're serious amateurs. A team fueled by passion, dedication, and a love for 8-way skydiving. We balance hard work with fun. We constantly try and push ourselves to improve while remembering that skydiving is something we do because we love it. We train with purpose. We learn from every jump and every tunnel session. And we support each other through all the successes and the setbacks. We may not be full-time professionals, but we do take our training and our teamwork seriously, always striving for, precision, growth, just the joy of flying together. Progress over perfection, as we say. Teamwork over ego, but always just having a laugh along the way. So our journey so far, we've completed at 3 British national events. We've twice won gold at intermediate. We qualified and competed at the Voss World Cup. And recently we won bronze or senior bronze at the British Indoor National Skydive Championships. Not bad for a scratch team over a few years. So our top tips for starting an 8-way team. Master the basics first. Get comfortable with your 4-way. Good fundamentals in fall rate, grip discipline, control, tracking, transitions, all that stuff is going to make it easier. Know your slot and do your job. Focusing on your role and trusting your teammates to do theirs. You cannot compensate for your other team members. Our coach always tells us to be selfish, because the moment you try and help someone else on your team, you kind of hose the other person. Exits are key, but they're not everything. It took us a long while to get that exit, but we still had a lot of fun competing and participating along the way. If you don't get these things straight away, it's not the be-all and end-all. You can still achieve all of this. I don't think we got our first proper exit. I think we had half an exit at John Ross can, I think we had half an exit at Voss at the World Meet. That was the first time we'd managed an exit at a World Cup. And then it wasn't until our 3rd nationals where we were consistently exiting as a team. But we still did all of those competitions, we still showed up, and we still had fun. Be patient in formations. Let the formations build properly before keying the next moves. Rushing ahead will just create instability. You are only as fast as your slowest flyer, and that really, really is true with 8-way. Learn the dive pool. Understanding randoms and blocks just makes training more efficient and helps your team plan those jumps more effectively. Figuring out how to learn the dive pool is often fun. We come up with silly names for things. I think we call H handbag because it looks like a handbag. We've got all sorts of silly names, but that just helps it keep it in our brain, and then, when we are training, help each other remember it a little bit better. Find a coach. Having someone knowledgeable of 8-way who can help you decipher the slots and moves is invaluable in terms of getting the most out of your training. Use the wind tunnel. They are fantastic tools. Unfortunately, here in the UK, we don't have a tunnel big enough to do 8-way. There are some plans for a 6-way dive pool coming up, which we are in fact doing some 6-way training, so part of our team can fly stuff together. Predominantly, we go out to France to a tunnel called Wimby in Lille, which was built by the French national 8-way team, so it's purposefully built for 8-way, and that's where we competed the British Indoor Nationals in December? Yeah, I think it was November. And it is a fantastic tunnel, and it's brilliant for doing 8-way in. Learn to love creepers. You're going to spend a lot of time on them. As much as we all hate them, they are really invaluable when you're trying to figure out 8-way slots. Standing up and dirt diving is great, but you just don't get the visuals and the angles to work out the moves. So yeah, they're not great, but you just got to embrace it and learn to love them. Strong break-offs save lives. With 9 people in the sky, clear tracking and altitude awareness is essential for safety. Me and one of my other teammates actually had a near miss at the Nationals last year. We're both confident trackers. We just so happened, really unfortunately, we both had off-heading openings which turned us back around towards each other. We both saw each other, we thought we had plenty of time, but when your canopy opens and surges, those closing speeds are suddenly very, very fast. We did have awareness and we did avoid each other, but but it was close. You know, 9 people doesn't seem very many, but it's still enough for you to have accidents. So really important, keep on top of your tracking and your awareness. Communication is key. Talking through your jumps, debriefing honestly, and working as a team on the ground, you know, helps avoid confusion in freefall. Keep it fun. 8-way is challenging, but it's also about teamwork and progression and enjoying the ride. You know, don't let the frustration take away from the enjoyment. Train with intention and set goals. Every jump should have a focus, whether it's refining the exits, perfecting a block move, or improving the break-offs. You know, and set your long-term goals as well. You know, for us, we had a World Cup to go to, so we really started training with intention and trying to get the most out of it then. And I think I've got a little bit of video for you to watch, which is a little slideshow and video of our last few years as a team. It's in no particular order, by the way. Oh, so last Nationals, we actually changed our names to Deton8 because we didn't have the same lineup. Being mean to Vince So 8-way is more than just a discipline, it's an adventure. The friendship, the trust, the absolute chaos, the joy of working as a team. You know, if you've ever thought about giving it a try, please, please do. We've had just the best few years with this adventure. And, you know, we're not stopping. We're still going. It really does push your skills. You will laugh a lot. You know, and maybe one day you'll find yourselves on a podium or at a World Cup too. If you want to get involved, because I don't have a set list of events and things going on throughout the year, please scan the QR code. There's just a brief form. If anyone is interested in getting involved in some of the 8-way stuff, some of the 6-way stuff, just register your interest, and as and when I have all the information to send out, I will. But yeah, any questions, anybody? Yeah?
On average, what's a reasonable number of points you'd expect to turn on an 8-way?
Say that again?
On average, what's a reasonable number of points you would expect to turn on an 8-way round?
The first competition we did, we were happy to get 1. I mean, we went to our first nationals, and I think we had a 3-point average, 2 or 3 point average at our first nationals. But we did go in and do intermediate because there wasn't a rookie category, or there was no one else in the rookie category, and we wanted to compete against another team. So obviously, if you go in at rookie and you've just got the randoms, you know, you'll probably achieve a few more than 3 points. But we set ourselves the task of doing blocks, most of which we'd never flown before until we turned up at that competition. You know, the top teams at the World Cup, I think the Qatari team scored more points in their first round than we did the entire competition. I mean, they were getting like 20, 30 points, and, you know, at the top level, it is really impressive to watch. I think, you know, sort of British senior average teams are sort of doing between 10 and 14 points at senior level. But then obviously as you get to senior, you've got the complexity of the block moves. So when you do rookie and you've just got the randoms, they're kind of those static formations. So everyone kind of has a slot. The thing with 8-way is you don't always stay in that slot. The preceding and proceeding formations can influence what slot you then go into. So you might be, you know, in the center on this time round, and then there's a block move and it moves you out, and then suddenly the next random, you're all in different slots. So the level of complexity with 8-way starts to go up the more and more you do, and the more blocks and randoms and stuff. And it's really quite confusing at times. That's why a coach is really great, because they'll look at the dive pool and they'll be like, oh, if you do this formation this way in your B slots, then that'll rotate you out, and then you'll be back in here. And sometimes it's really difficult to have that, that sort of foresight to know where you need to be. So yeah, in answer to your question, I think starting out, you know, if you're hitting 3 or 4 points average as rookie, that's great, and that's a really good thing to aim for. But yeah, obviously the more points you get, the better. You can only get more if you keep practicing and keep learning. Any other questions?
Yeah, I know that you did 4-way comp before this. What did you say were the main differences coming from 4-way to 8-way?
The speed. 8-way is a lot slower. I think with 4-way gets quite fast, and I think there's always the emphasis to get a lot faster and do block moves and do. You cannot 4-way your way through 8-way. It comes back to you are only as fast as your slowest flyer, and that was a steep learning curve. Was stop, slow down. And it comes back to those basic 4-way discipline skills of stop, levels, grips. You know, you really have to start slowing your brain down. In terms of getting out the aircraft, probably not a lot. I think the people who flew in the slots, like the people in point, if they've flown point before and they're used to the out-facing, you know, people in tail, if they're used to hanging out the back and supporting in that role, that can be helpful. A lot of the center slots are relatively interchangeable, and depending on the moves you're doing, you do end up sort of flying in other people's slots. So yeah, there are a lot of transferable skills, but also it's not four-way, and I think you really need to work hard to slow yourselves down more so. Any other questions?
With the dive pools, I've had a quick look on various websites. You can only get black and white ones. Do you have any recommendations to find the colour-coded ones?
I think we probably have links, and if you drop me an email, I can probably share some files to people. And like we've got a OneDrive full of resources that we've put together and our coach has given us and things like that. So yeah, if anyone wants that sort of stuff, please get in touch, and I'll try and put those resources together. And it's also worth noting that the dive pool for indoors and outdoors is different. There were talks, and I think in some countries they've aligned the 8-way dive pool so that it's all the same, but I do not think that has been adopted in the UK yet. So if you are training in the tunnel, be aware that you might just be training indoor blocks, and then you go to an outdoor competition and you're like, I've never seen that one before. There are some outdoor blocks you just can't fly in the tunnel, there's just not the room, so they've adapted that dive pool. So yeah, it is worth being aware if you're looking at a dive pool, if it's an indoor one or an outdoor one. Anybody else? Any other questions? No, well, look, thanks very much for coming along today, guys. I know it wasn't a very long talk, but I think there's only so much I can say about 8-way. But, you know, if you do have any questions, please feel free to come and grab me. You know, please do scan the QR code, and as and when we've got information about events, it would be really great if I'm speaking to our coach and a few other people. We're looking at putting on some beginner 8-way things at drop zones around the country. And if there is interest, if there's enough people at a specific drop zone, then yeah, you know, a few of us will all come up and we'll hopefully run an event. So yeah, please do get in touch. Thank you.